Hey mamas, there's a big separation between our normal life and birth in most cultures today. And so because of that, we don't get to experience a lot of births. And the birth stories that we do hear are usually the most extreme ones that end up instilling more fear about a woman's birth experience. But I want to remind you that you are built to birth. I got a message from a mom who's a part of our Built to Birth community who had just given birth during this COVID-19 pandemic and was blown away by her birth story. There's so much power in hearing positive birth stories and surrounding yourself with true experiences when it comes to birth and motherhood. I've had so many mamas reach out to me with their birth stories, and I finally realized that their stories just need to be heard by more mamas like you. So this is the first episode of the Built to Birth podcast, where we are sharing your birth stories. So after you're done listening to this one, it would be so helpful if you could go to wherever you listen to your podcasts and subscribe and rate, and then write a review so that more moms get to hear these empowering birth stories to inspire them for their positive birth. I'm Bridget, and I'm a childbirth educator and a doula in the San Francisco Bay Area. And without further ado, here is my conversation with the amazing Ranzel. Ranzel, it's Ranzel, right?
Yeah, Ranzel.
Well, I'm so glad that you're to see you and to kind of have a face to the name.
Yeah.
I was so happy when you reached out to me. I have these moms, come and tell me their a little bit of their birth story every once in a while on Instagram. And when you came and shared me yours, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And you gave birth during all of this COVID craziness.
Yeah.
What was that kind of like?
It didn't bother me at first with all the news going on, because I was like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fortunate enough to be around my family. And so for me, it wasn't too much of a worry. What worried me is when they started shutting down hospitals up north from me. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine giving birth without my husband there, let alone doing it by myself and not having done it before. And so that's what really worried me. And so when I got the call Thursday morning from my nurse and, kind of telling me, well, your husband can't come with you to your appointment on Friday. And I asked her, would I be able to deliver with my husband there? And she said, honestly, it's changing day by day. I can't give you the answer. And this is the first time I actually couldn't even speak after she said that. I just started crying and and so it was overwhelming. That was the first time I've ever felt that anxiety and that stress during that day.
That's a lot to take on. That's I feel like for a first time mom walking into her birth experience, it's a little bit overwhelming already because it's something she's never done before, right? You're doing it for the first time and, you've had all these months to prepare for it, but there is that element of the unknown that is worrisome. And then to add in that added element of maybe your birth partner is not going to be able to be there is that's overwhelming. And so I can't wait to hear the rest of that story in depth. But before we get into that, can you share a little bit? Let's go back to the beginning. And first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, and then share with me how you found out you were pregnant.
Oh yeah. So I'm Ranzel Walker. My husband and I met in Salt Lake City, and I think within 5 months of dating, we decided to get married.
I love it. So it's a love story.
It was kind of crazy, but anyway, so it's just, to me, meeting my husband and everything already manifested of how small of a world we live in. So he served an LDS mission in the Philippines before meeting him, and the area that he served is actually my hometown.
Oh
But
my goodness, that's
yeah.
so crazy. Like, what are the chances?
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy. So like, I moved from the Philippines to the United States when I was around like 8, 9 years old. Um,
Okay.
and um, so I didn't really know, a lot of the people like in our area, like since I was so young, but it's just fun to see him interact with my sisters and my mom,
Oh,
and how they know the same people. And
yeah, that's so crazy.
yeah,
So you
so
guys met in 5 months, you guys were engaged or got married? And
I think
then,
engaged, yeah. And then 2 months
okay,
after that, we were
engaged.
married. Yeah.
I love it. And so then after you got married, when did you guys decide, to get pregnant, or when did you guys get pregnant and how'd you find that out?
Um, so on our wedding night, we both just, decided it was such like a, like, not a big deal, like conversation to
Yeah.
have. And,
Yeah.
we're like, okay, 3 years, like 3 years is a pretty good timing, like, kind of get to know each other like even more and experience life together before we like add on like a baby. And so three
Yeah.
years was June of last year. And
Okay.
2 months prior to that, I had gotten off my birth control. I was like, okay, like, we're doing this. And anyway, so a month after our 3 year anniversary, I find out like I was a week late. And to me, I've always thought that I was going to have a hard time getting
Hmm.
pregnant because my periods before birth control, so birth control I've been in since high school, because
Okay.
my period would come every other month and it would be so heavy and I was just so irregular.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
a week had gone by, but, and I was like, oh, I'm a week late. And I was kind of getting stressed. Like, am I going back to that irregular, like, menstrual cycle? And I
Mm.
didn't even want to think about that. And
Yeah.
so I told him I'll wait a week and then I'll take a pregnancy test. So like he went to play basketball at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, okay, I'm up. Like I'm gonna take this test, and um, it came positive, and
Oh my goodness.
I didn't even take the other test that came in the pack. Like I just knew. I knew it was
Yeah.
positive. And
Oh.
anyway, so he had came home and I just basically put it on our bedside table and he looked at it. He's like, you're not serious, are you? And I said, yeah, like we're serious. I'm like, I couldn't even keep it. And I didn't tell him in any like elaborate way, but he was super excited, and just how everything had worked out. It was amazing that we were able to get pregnant that fast. And so
That's so
it was
sweet. That's
awesome.
so special. Oh, well, congratulations on, well, I guess your pregnancy, but now your baby's born already. Um, and then, like, kind of what were you expecting, or what did you want your birth to be like when you found out you were pregnant and you were like, okay, like now at the end of these 9 months, I'm going to be giving birth? What kind of was what did you want your birth experience to be like?
I was pretty nonchalant about it. Didn't really have any idea. Like to me, it was like just
Mm-hmm.
however it's gonna go is the way it's gonna go.
Yeah.
um, so for me, I was like, if I had her naturally, like that's awesome. But if I also needed an epidural, that's great too.
Mm.
I just, as much as possible, I did not want to have like a C-section.
Hmm.
But I didn't really, to be honest, like I didn't really start thinking
Yeah.
about my birth plan or anything of how I actually wanted my birth to be like until
Hmm.
35 weeks pregnant.
Yeah. And what kind
um,
of at that 35-week mark, what kind of sent you into that mode of like, okay, I need to start preparing?
um, I had actually spoken with my cousin that also gave birth naturally, and
Okay.
I had asked her, so how was that like? Like, what steps did you take to prepare for your birth? And she had
Mm-hmm.
talked to me about hypnobirthing and gave me all
Hmm.
these different resources of natural birth. And it really just like her story empowered me to have my own like natural birth, just because of how she said like I was in control of my body, and and it was just her and her husband as well. That was in that, in the room, and she was like, like just having that control and having her husband like help her through, labor and delivery, really just like made their bond even closer. And and I wanted the same thing, and so I had discussed it with my husband, like, I think I really want like a natural birth. And right away he was like, okay, how can we accomplish that? Like, what do we need to start researching and implementing in, our day-to-day lives, like to kind of help you with that. So he was very supportive, and he actually is the one that found you on YouTube.
That's great. It sounds like you guys are like really proactive about like, getting on board and being like, okay, let's do this thing.
Yeah. And so he was like, with all the videos that we watched, he's like, okay, like, see, you're not too late. Like,
you're never too late.
This at 35 weeks. And it was awesome. He actually has like a whole notebook full of just notes, like on everything.
That is amazing. Oh my goodness.
It
awesome. Just shows like how the support of that birth partner can just be, it can like make or break the experience, and so like having that support from your husband was so sweet that, he was the one who was like, all right, let's do this. Like, let's help you accomplish this. And that's awesome. And I love that like it was your cousin who inspired you to kind of like rethink your birth experience, and be like, wow, like this doesn't have to be an experience that I just have to like kind of go through and just be like, okay, whatever happens, happens. But this is something that I can be like inspired and like empowered and encouraged by. And so it just shows like how much power in like positive birth stories, or like how much power positive birth stories have. And so that's so cool that your cousin kind of was able to play that part in you having this empowering birth experience.
Yeah, for sure. It was amazing. And it was kind of just the light at the end of the tunnel with everything that's been going on as well. And I didn't expect it to go as well as it did. And that's what like kind of, that's one of the first things I thought about was like, Wes, like I need to message Bridget. Like I need to let her know like how much like your like the 13 tracks of the affirmation like meditation really did like help me. Like that is what got me through my labor and delivery and all of it. Like it was amazing. And
well, it's so, like I said it before, but where the mind leads, the body follows, and so it's like just guiding your mind in the way that you want your body to go, which is so powerful.
Yeah, it definitely was like in this scenario, it really was like mind over matter. And it was amazing for me to experience that, because I don't think I've had an experience to where I really pushed myself and really believed in myself that I can do this. Because even with the like at home workouts, like I can't even go through like a workout by myself, because if something starts burning, I'm like, okay, like I'm done for the day. So
we've all been there.
Big.
Yeah, well, that's so amazing. So now we've talked a little bit about your pregnancy, and so like I'm so excited to hop into your birth story. You said at the beginning that you had that conversation with the nurse where she was saying, protocols are changing every day at a hospital, so I can't like guarantee like who's going to be able to be there, who's not going to be able to be there. What week was that? Like how many weeks pregnant were you when you had that phone call?
That was that phone call was the day before I gave birth. So
okay.
38
wow.
weeks.
Okay, so starting at that phone call, which you shared about, kind of now walk me through and walk all of us through like what your birth story was. And so I'll let you share kind of from that point on just the rest of the story. Okay. And this is like I've heard a little bit, just from your message, but I can't wait to hear like all the details. Seriously, I'm so excited. I feel so like antsy and I'm so excited to hear it. So go ahead and share the rest of that story.
So after that phone call, I was hysterically crying. My husband came into the room and had asked me what's wrong, what happened. And I had just told him, I'm not sure, like, if I'm gonna be able to have you there, when I have the baby. And obviously he was distraught as well. Like, it's our first child together, and just how special that is. I mean, how special it is to even bring a child into this world and experience that with your partner. And not being able to share that was really just, it really broke our hearts. And, but, he's really great at keeping me, have like a positive outlook on everything. And, he's like, okay, so, well, what do you want to do? Well, what can we do about this situation? Obviously, if protocols change, like, there's nothing we can do about that. But, starting right now, what do you want to do about it? And I told him, I think we need to, like, induce my labor naturally, like, however we can at home. From my last appointment, the week prior, the doctor had already told me that I was 3 centimeters dilated, and my cervix looked good. Like, everything was checking out. Like, the baby was in the perfect position.
Great, yeah.
And to me, like, that just confirmed that, okay, like, if she's gonna come, then she's gonna come. And, I'm doing these for the right reasons, because I want, like, my husband to be there as well. And so we went on, I think this is the most, like, exercise I've had, like, the last week and a half. We went on 2 long walks that day. I drank my, like, red raspberry leaf tea. I think I drank like 6, like, tea bags that day. And I had eaten my 6 dates. I've been eating dates, like, continuously every single day. And I had also been doing the essential oils of, like, the clary sage. And so that was awesome. And he actually was the one doing, like, my acupressure, like, massages. Great. And he did, like, a great job with that. And so that's kind of what we did all day. That we were, like, on baby mode, like, all day. And, so we had gone to bed around, like, 9-10 o'clock at night. And I was like, okay, like, we've done everything we can to this point. If, she comes, then she comes. If not, then, there's nothing more that we can do. And I woke up actually, like, at 5:45 in the morning, because I needed to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom and I started having cramps, but it wasn't enough for me to be alarmed. And I was like, okay, maybe it's just like, the discomfort that comes with pregnancy. And so I had gotten in bed, tried to go back to bed, and I kind of just looked at my phone. I was like, well, let me just time it. And it was about 5 minutes apart, about, like, a minute long, but 5 minutes apart. And so I was like, okay, it's not bad. Like, and I was just, like, scrolling through social media on my phone, and it had gotten to where it was, like, 4 minutes apart. And at that point I was like, okay, like, something's happening, and I need to wake him up. So I woke up my husband, and I was like, I think, like, I'm having contractions, but I'm not sure. And so I immediately, like, sat on my birthing ball. And that was the one thing I did too the day before, was just, like, bouncing on my birthing ball.
Those things are like magic.
And anyway, so I was just sitting on my birthing ball, and, like, I had my elbows on the couch and just kind of rolling, because I could, I started to feel him even more. And my husband's like, I think I need to, like, give the birthplace, like, triage, like, a call, like, to let him know, like, what's going on. And the nurse on the phone was very just, like, calm about it. Like, well, like, it's your first baby, and she's only 38 weeks. it might just be a false alarm. Just go have her take a Tylenol, go take a bath, and let's see where, it goes from there. And she even, I remember her saying, if she's not crying, then like she's not in that much pain. And so
Wow.
I was like, well, I told my husband, I was like, well, tell her I've been doing like hypnobirthing, and it didn't really phase her. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to listen to my body. And so I started, listening to your tracks, and that like got me through like my, just the contractions and everything. And while my husband was preparing the bath, and by the time I got into the bath, it was painful. Like it was to where I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm like gripping, the stairwell and everything, and whatever else I can get a hold of. But I still didn't feel like crying. So I was like, okay, look, it's fine. I'm probably still at a 5 or a 7. Like I'm not that far along. And at this point, he sees me like squirming in the bath, and he's like, okay, like I'm going to start getting everything ready, put it in the car, and I'm just going to call him and let him know that we're coming. And I said, I just told him, I was like, okay. And the whole time, I would definitely say like the 2 things that I took with me and didn't really worry about anything else was my headphones and my eye mask, and to really just set the mood of focusing on my breathing and, and on my body and what my body was telling me. And by the time my husband got me out of the bath, I could not even stand up. I was crawling on the kitchen floor. And at that point, he's like, okay, we got to get you in the car. Like this is getting intense. And it was, I think, getting 2 minutes apart. And in the car, I kept kicking his seat because I was in the back seat, like kicking his seat. And he was trying to go as fast as he can to the hospital. And thank goodness, our hospital had valet. And so he pulled up to the valet guy, and the guy was like, oh, like, let me go grab a wheelchair because it doesn't even look like she can get out of the car. So I got in the wheelchair, and when we got in the hospital, they were doing the like security checkpoints for COVID, and check our temperature and all of that. And by the time, actually, my husband was actually told the valet guy, oh, okay, like I'll just have the nurse take her up, and I can go park, I can go grab her stuff. And I told him, I was like, no, you are coming with me. Like this is like, I don't even know if he would have made it if he would have stayed and grabbed all of our stuff. And so he just came with me. He told the valet guy, oh, I'll be back. Like, I'll be back. I'm just going to take my wife upstairs. And, the nurse wheeled me up, and he was there with me. Oh my gosh. And this was the most like agonizing pain I've ever been. I still didn't feel like crying. And so, by the time we got to the check-in desk, this sweet lady was taking her time, and it took us 10 minutes at the check-in desk. And that is where my water completely broke. And I literally was just like turning around in my wheelchair. Like I couldn't, like on my knees in the wheelchair, I couldn't even like hold it together. And by the time we got to the triage, and they had laid me down, put the nurse went to go check my cervix, and I was having a contraction. She's like, okay, let's just get through this, and I'll check your cervix and see how far along you are. When she checked, she was so surprised. She was like, you are a 10 plus 2. Like, we got to wheel you out of here. And,
oh my gosh.
I guess my husband didn't hear that. And so for him, when the nurse started like telling him, you need to put, the rails up on, on the bed that I was in, and we got to wheel her out, and we got to take her to delivery. And he was like, okay, like, we were hurrying. And, by the time I got to the delivery room, they kept telling me don't push, because I think I've already pushed twice, and they're like, don't push, like put an
They were
IV
trying to
in
get
me.
everything ready
Yeah,
and
they were trying to get everything ready. And, but then I saw everything kind of start slowing down. Like there was only one nurse in the room. And I just took it upon myself and got myself ready on the bed. Like, cause I had told all the nurses, I wanted to give birth kind of like on my hands and knees, like in a squatting position or something to where it felt natural to me. And they were totally fine, okay with that. And so I had gotten in my position in bed and, listening to you on my headphones and on my like active labor and, to where I could just feel I was doing my J breaths and it was such a powerful moment in time because I could feel my body like contracting and, pushing and to where, okay, like I trusted my body fully that the time was now. And, by the time I did like my one big push, my husband kind of freaked. I guess he told me all of this because I didn't hear any of this. I guess he was freaking out to that one nurse and said, I think like I can see the baby's head. And there were no doctors there, nothing. And she was like, oh, like she's just pooping. And he's like, no, like I think I see the baby's head. And so she just checks and she's like, oh my gosh, like that's the baby's head. And she pulls this lever, apparently this like emergency lever that, all the nurses come rushing in and then a midwife comes in and they're like, oh my gosh, she's having the baby like right now. And so I think I did 2 more pushes. One push, I felt her head come out all the way. And then the second, just the rest of her body.
And were you doing this on your hands and knees position or were you, okay.
Yeah, on my hands and knees. And my husband's like, yeah, they barely like got in there just in time to catch the baby. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, like it was crazy. And my husband got to like, cut her umbilical cord and it was so surreal. I just like felt my husband like tap my shoulder, kind of give my shoulder a rub and said, babe, like you did it. She's here. And, I saw her and, I had that, it grabbed her and everything and had that like, skin to skin moment with her. And it was amazing. Like all the nurses were so surprised of how quick my delivery was. And they actually they talked about it all day because whoever would come in to our room later that night or a doctor that would check in on us, oh, I heard that you had quite the day and how easy your labor and delivery was and how fast your baby came. And so it was just such like a surreal experience. I remember having her on me and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I just did this. Like I can't believe like she is here. And with everything else, like I didn't really experience any pain afterwards. And so when I delivered my placenta and everything, like how everyone, and that's the number one thing too, I think that got, me, I was like in a not necessarily a negative mindset, but I was just like in that fearful state before I had really learned about hypnobirthing and positive affirmations of how birth was going to go. Everyone was like, everyone that I heard of would tell me, oh my gosh, like delivering your placenta is worse than labor because, there's just one more thing coming or going number 1 or number 2 afterwards is the worst thing. And, so that just set kind of, fear in my head. And, but afterwards, when I did have those experiences, number 1 and number 2 after birth, I hadn't experienced like any pain whatsoever. Again, I believe like the whole mind over matter kind of thing helped me. But I definitely would just say to anyone who is, expecting or going to give birth at,
Mm-hmm.
in this time, I would definitely say there is a lot of negativity that surrounds us right now, especially right now.
Yeah.
That I would try your hardest to not read those like horror, like birth stories, and,
Yeah.
keep a positive mindset of how your birth is going to go, recreate it in your mind. And,
Mm-hmm.
that is really what helped me. I definitely say like birth is nothing to be scared of. And like
Yes.
what you've said before, that it is a natural thing that our body like goes through, and our body knows
Mm-hmm.
what to do, and to trust our body and our baby. And um,
Yeah.
so I definitely 110% like believe that
Yeah.
anyone can have a positive birth
Mm-hmm.
story and feel empowered by their birth. And you can do it. You can really labor as long as you want at home.
Yeah. I know you lived it.
Yeah, so
That's
it
amazing.
was it was definitely like an uncharted territory as a first
Hmm.
time mom. Um,
Yeah.
so I didn't know like what to expect of how my pain was, but I had explained to my husband just with how painful my menstrual cycles would be. And he has
Hmm.
seen me being like in so much pain during my menstrual cycles. I told him it was maybe like 10 steps more painful than, my menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
Um, and he had asked me right when I gave birth, would you do it again? Like the way that it happened.
Yeah.
And I told him, yeah, like I would do it again to have this experience. And
Yeah.
um, definitely, like I still had the adrenaline. After giving
Mm-hmm.
birth, I didn't feel tired.
Yeah.
And I could walk around. Like I wheeled my baby into, our room that we were staying in,
Yeah.
and just being able to kind of have somewhat of a normalcy after giving birth,
Mm-hmm.
I believe like really helped me 2 weeks postpartum as well. Um, of knowing that, okay, like my body had gone through that. And so with my recovery postpartum, it's actually been really good.
Good.
And it's been amazing. With I, I just can't even put it into words, just with
Yeah.
my experience. And, I think a lot of people, put such a huge, kind of bubble into giving birth and postpartum recovery. And
Mm.
it's, I think they need to give like, moms that's gone through this and everything like a lot more credit, and not treat us so like fragile, like think that we're so
Mm.
fragile.
Hmm.
Because to me, it's like that is the most like powerful thing that we can
Yeah.
do. Like we brought like a human into this world, and
Yeah.
it needs to be really appreciated to that degree of, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like you just did this, and that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Totally. And it sounds like, you trusting in your body to know what to do, and then like, listening to what it was saying and responding to it, that helped you so much, and really just like trusting it, responding, moving the way that you needed to, breathing the way that you needed to help give you just that positive birth experience, because it allowed your baby to come down and out like so much easier and more effectively. And so, that contributes so much to that postpartum recovery as well, where the fewer interventions that take place, the more
mhm.
natural it can be. Typically, the easier, that postpartum recovery period is going to be. And so, it's like just another one of those reasons where it's like we want to strive for as natural of a birth as it can be, not just for the birth itself, which is so important, but also for that postpartum period. Because like you said, like it can be such like an empowering experience, but it comes back to that birth experience where we need to be empowered in our birth in order for, that empowerment to trickle out and then into motherhood. And so that's, one of my questions for you now is like, how did your birth experience change the way that you feel about yourself?
Um, it definitely made me believe in myself more of the things that I'm able to accomplish.
Hmm.
And I think that is very powerful because a lot of women, especially, you know, during pregnancy and even before that, a lot of us like have our own insecurities,
Hmm.
and things that, we think to ourselves, well, like they can do that, but I can never do that.
Yeah.
And for me, I definitely had those thoughts as well. Even though I did have like a really easy pregnancy and, everything went well, I did still have some insecurities, in the back of my mind, like how will my body like go back to normal after birth?
Hmm.
And, what steps like would I take to, really get back to like taking care of myself? Because a lot of, the things that I have experienced these last 2 weeks is, that I never really understood before is when women would say, you don't really have time for yourself, postpartum,
Hmm.
like you take care of the baby and,
Hmm.
it's all about the baby. And that's not like true. That's
Hmm.
completely not true. You have time to take care of yourself and just knowing that, you had gone through this experience. You didn't just bring a baby into this world, you also became a mom. And
Yeah, it's huge.
um so with my whole experience, it's changed the outlook that I have for myself in a much more like positive way.
That's so beautiful.
And to where I think that's where they get, I think a lot of women, that's where they get their, the term kind of being like a mama bear. And,
Hmm.
you do come out of this much stronger.
Hmm.
And that's definitely how I felt. Like I, before, like, um,
I think
I was,
I lost you a little bit.
that you
There we go.
can do. And now, like, I really believe that I can truly like tell her that she can do anything and, be whatever she wants to be and how
Hmm.
that's possible. And through this experience, that's what I felt like I could be
Yeah.
much more confident in my role as a mother and
Yeah.
as, my own self. And I feel like I didn't lose myself at all through this process. If anything, I've experienced or I've opened like a new kind
Kind
of.
of window into who you
Mhm,
are.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's,
exactly.
for moms, it's not, you don't lose yourself, but a part of you changes,
Hmm.
you, like you said, you become a mom now. And so that's like a huge shift and it's such a beautiful one, but it can be challenging. And, you know, it's about making the time and putting yourself as a priority because we can be distracted. I mean, not just, we have this amazing new human life that, of course, we like want to give our heart and life to. But like you said, it's like making ourselves a priority a little bit so that we can take care of ourselves, so that we heal and we make this transition into this new person that we are, as smoothly as we can and as powerfully as we can, so that we can demonstrate that to this new little life that we're helping bring up now. And so that's so cool. I love it. I'm so glad that you've just had this experience that's been so empowering and and special, and you're going to be able to carry that with you for the rest of your life and share that with your daughter one day. And that's so, so cool.
Yeah. So I'm excited. And even, my husband is so excited to share, basically our birth story with the rest of the family. And it's just seeing the reactions of how well everything has gone. And especially, and they I can see it as well that they feel empowered through my birth story of oh my
and
gosh,
it just shows how, the more we have these stories out there, the more, these empowered birth experiences are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So cool.
For sure.
So, you're saying it was your, you and your husband's birth experience. What do you feel like helped you the most in him supporting you during your labor? What do you feel like was something that if you could pinpoint that he did that you're like, oh, this helped so much?
I definitely would say is when he would massage or push on my back. And even without me telling him, he just kind of, from my cues of being in pain and he was able just to kind of jump in there and massage my arms or just kind of take my mind off of the pain and push on my back and to the point where I would just kind of tell him, oh, can you just push a little bit harder? And he would. And so definitely that's what helped. He didn't necessarily talk to me as much, which I appreciate because I definitely am one of those women that are do not talk to me.
You just needed to go inside yourself. You're like, no, I just need to tune into my body, listen to my baby.
Yes, for sure.
No, totally.
But it was the physical aspect of all the things that he was doing made me feel like, okay, he knows what to do. He is helping me through this. And so that is
and just having him close by and that physical touch was like, okay, I'm not alone. I have his support. I can ask him to do anything and he's going to do it. And just having that even physical closeness is so important during that birth process.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely was.
I love it. Well, if there's one thing that you could share with any mama who's going to be listening to this birth story of yours, what is the one thing that you would want to leave her with?
I definitely would let anyone know that's going through this, even just being pregnant during this time or having a baby during this time, that you're not alone and you can do this. You don't have to, start doing any, to me, I think the biggest thing is that you're never too late. I started preparing at 35 weeks. And if you think about it,
and
that
you gave
really
birth
was
at 38 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
so it's really not too late to prepare. Don't ever think that, oh, because I'm this far along, I have to just go and see what my body can do. So just prepare as much as you can, whatever, stage of pregnancy that you're in right now. Prepare as much as you can with the time that you have left. And I would definitely say make every moment count. Definitely, get into that mindset of, positive affirmations during pregnancy, during labor, and after birth, because that will really, I feel like that really will help a lot of women kind of not think about, the hormonal changes that they're going to go through afterwards as well. That's going to help you, have a more positive, outlook on after having a baby. And, so just I don't know how else to put it into words,
No,
but
that's great.
yeah.
And I think, you're exactly right. It's like it's never too late to change that mindset into a positive space, and to start listening to those positive birth stories, by reaching out to people like you did with your cousin, to see how they did it. And I think that's something that's so lacking in our world today, is that there's such a disconnect between birth and like normal life. Whereas like back in the day, it was like, no, people like you gave birth in a community, you gave birth in your home. It was a community event that girls grew up with. And so, as women now, there is that disconnect. And so encouraging, just like you reaching out to family members and I'm sure friends, of getting those birth experience stories is so impactful. And I love too just the way that you focus so much on your mind and training it to stay positive, training it to trust your body, and then trusting in your body to do the work that it needed to do. And I think your story is so powerful, and I know it's going to encourage so many mamas who are facing labor right now and who are going to be laboring in the future. And so I'm so excited for other mamas to hear your beautiful birth experience, because it really is such a beautiful one. And I'm so honored that you shared it with me. I'm so glad that you reached out on Instagram and just sent me that little message, and it's kind of, had this domino effect for, that led us here. So I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it was so good to see you. And, I would love to keep up with like all your photos, and just your journey into motherhood is so special. So
oh yeah, thank you. I would love that. Yeah.
Great. I know, it's so fun being able to connect with women during pregnancy and then just see like this journey and this transformation into being amazing mothers. And I know you are an amazing mother for your little daughter, and you guys are going to have a perfect and sweet little family. So I love it. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. And yeah, I'll be looking at your pictures in the months to come and see how your daughter's grown and see how you are. So thank you for being with me. And till next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
Mama, I hope you are as empowered and blown away by Ranzel's story as I am. Ranzel talked a lot about how using affirmations helped lead her body where her mind wanted it to go. And I've said it before, mamas, that where your mind leads, your body follows. And using affirmation meditations can help affirm your mind to lead your body in the direction that you want it to go. You can get your own Built to Birth affirmation meditations from my website, builttobirth.com, which I will link down in the descriptions below, so that you can have these positive affirmation meditations with you wherever you go, whenever you want to use them, specifically for your birth experience. Again, if you are empowered by this birth story, go to wherever you listen to your podcast and subscribe, rate, and then write a review to help other mamas hear this amazing birth story as well. So thanks for being with me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one.